Hi, Booker. Let me. Nice to see you again. It's been a while.
Good to you.
I've been asked a bunch about how we met,
Hmm.
and what the circumstances of us getting to know each other was, and then how this record came about. And it's kind of a circuitous story. And I was wondering, yeah, I was just, what is your take on that? Do you remember like what made how we met and why you asked me to be on the road from Memphis?
Yeah, about 15 years ago, I think maybe 2005, looking for someone to sing with Sharon Jones. Olivia had written this song. Olivia is my daughter manager, representing Memphis to some music I had, and looking for a duet partner. And Andy Calkin, a friend of mine,
Who- Yeah.
suggested you, and you said yes. And so you flew to New York, I guess, and but we that's where we met, New York, and you and Sharon,
Yeah.
Sharon Jones.
Andy was the person I kept trying to remember who suggested me to you guys for that song, and that's you just answered it. Thank you. Yeah, that was how it kind of that's how we connected, and then I remember. Am I right that right before I arrived, Lauren Hill had just been there and stepped
Yeah,
out?
she's a big Questlove fan,
Yeah.
and she was hanging around the studio because Questlove was there 2 or 3 in the morning. He was the drummer on the project, so
But she also is on the record too, right? I think she is, or she did.
no,
And
that
his
wasn't
part.
her. We had somebody else sing. No, that part.
Oh, okay. Because I don't remember, but I remember coming. I remember that when I arrived and I got out, and the elevator doors open, and Lauren Hill was standing there, and she let me out. And that was kind of what like stepping through the looking glass. I was like, "Wow, this is amazing." And then I went into, I think that I was really confused about what all happened there. Am I wrong?
I'm 75 years old. Your memory may be better than mine. There were a
I
lot of
don't. It's
people at
definitely
the
not.
studio that night. You may be correct,
And
actually.
I also trick
Yeah,
me also if I'm wrong. And Lou Reed had just been in there,
yeah,
and then so and a lot of this is in your book, Time Is Tight, that you kind of tell about that when we met and stuff. But yeah, and then I remember my experience that I've been telling is that I went into it. It was there was a lot of people. Nan was there. I don't
yeah,
remember if Olivia was there, but Nan had a bottle of wine for me right away. And then
yeah.
Questlove and everybody's in there, and then Sharon Jones comes in, and she's just immediately like a sun walking into the
Took
room.
hold of you, didn't she?
Uh, well,
Yeah.
well, I mean, she was in such total control, and you guys, you wanted to do it live, the song together, where we'd sing into the same microphone. And I remember I'd never done that before, and she's shorter than I am, so the microphone was set up to her height, so I kind of had to bend over, kind of like
Yeah.
at a right angle, and
Yeah.
sing in
But Sharon's not with us anymore, right?
Yes, yes, yes. No, yeah, and that's why I have reflected on that hour I spent with her, maybe at the most, and with you guys in that room, and the fact that I was able to have that experience with her and you all at the same time was, I thought a lot about that, and yes, miss her very much, and thank you for giving me that opportunity, and that
Welcome.
led to this like 10 years later kind of and then the story I've been telling, and maybe you can have your side of it, is that in 2018, right before Christmas, I really wanted to make a covers record, or I wanted to make an album of covers,
Mhm.
um, and in the vein of Stardust, the one that you produced and arranged with Willie Nelson, and
Mhm.
so I wrote to you on I think around December 18th of 2018, and I clicked
Mhm.
on the management button on your website because I hadn't stayed in touch with you. And I think the next day or a day or two later, Olivia, your daughter, who is now your manager, I don't even know if she was your manager way back 12 years ago, but she wrote back right away and said, yeah, you'd love to be involved. And then I said, well, would you like to want to produce and arrange it? And then within 2 days, we had this idea of making a covers album.
Mhm.
Um, and then from there, it just kind of evolved into a combination of covers and originals, and it gets really blurry for me remembering that
Mhm.
moment when we switched to focusing on originals. But I don't know. What's your take on all that?
It was you sent me in spite of you and those covers, and then you sent me Love So Little. And then
Was
you
that
sent
the
me
first one I sent you? Love Solo.
Distant Axis.
And then Distant Access.
Yeah, all the ones before that. So that's what turned the tide to doing the album that we did. I mean, we still, yeah. And I'm looking at my notes here, and my eyes a T-shirt. You changed the, you sent me that, and then you sent me In a Minute.
Which
Uh,
changed the name to Take Me Out of Town. That was the original title for Any Minute. Or Any Minute was the original title for Take Me Out of Town, yeah.
right, and then you sent me Let It Be. That was the game changer.
Oh, that, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, so Let It Be isn't even on the record. That's on the
yeah,
bonus, and that's a original that I wrote with Mike Brewer,
right,
and I called it Let It Be in that
yeah,
because a lot of people have taken that title, and yeah, that's an original one. Yeah, I couldn't remember which originals I sent you, and
yeah,
then they weren't necessarily the ones that fit together the best for the album because I kind of wanted the record. We wanted the record to be not too long and like
mhm,
Stardust isn't too long and yeah.
mhm,
So that's kind of how it. But we recorded all of those things in the same like
yeah,
2.5 week period. Right.
yeah. In Spite of Me, we did another cover, and then Matt and I met Matt, or Mike rather. I'm calling Matt. Mike, Big Mike came and played, and we met, and yeah, that was great.
Do you remember? There's another a moment I remember when I walked in one morning and you were there before me, which was not uncommon, and you were playing guitar and you just said, "Come here, sit down," and you started playing a riff. And you said, do you know this? And I said, no. And then you taught me Big Bird by Eddie Floyd. And then we
Oh
covered that. Remember that?
yeah, 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 yeah. I
I
do.
feel like, and then we did that like in
Hmm.
2 hours, kind of, and
Yeah,
or really quick,
yeah.
and then done.
That was because when I first talked to you, that was the first song that came to mind. When we first got on the phone together, I remembered that, and
Why? Do you remember why that song?
that just popped into my mind because I wrote that with Eddie Floyd, and that's the music that came to mind when we
Yeah,
doing covers.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
this
do
one.
you?
Yeah.
There's a bunch of funny moments. Let's just jump around to just moments that I thought were really funny. Do you remember when we tried to cover "Sabotage" by Beastie Boys? Do you remember that? We aborted it pretty quickly.
Who was playing what? Who was?
You were playing Hammond. There's recordings of it. We'll have to ask
Oh,
Sean.
okay. Mhm.
We aborted that
Yeah,
really
yeah, yeah,
quickly.
yeah, yeah. I remember
Yeah,
that.
and then but then we tried. Then we did the Cure's "In Between Days," which just actually was just released a couple of last for a Democratic get out the vote. Well, just to get out the vote thing. But we did that one. Do you remember that one? The Cure's "In Between Days."
I do. I do.
Yeah, that one. That's all going to be. That's already out. But so all the covers we did are going to come out in the bonus stuff.
Yeah, that's good.
Um,
I remember that. I enjoyed that.
yeah, and I remember you loved that one so much, but I felt weird. I thought we were because the Cure's original has this like 16th note guitar thing, and
Mhm.
we did a whole different take on it. And I remember I was singing in a real stiff sort of way, and so when we were finally done with all these covers and records, I felt like that one we hadn't finished it. But I remember you loved that so much. So a few weeks ago, I went and re-sang it, and I had Julia Laws sing on it, and so you should check it out now. I think Sean will send you a mix, but now it's really special, and so. But yeah, all those covers are coming out along with the Serpentine Prison 10
And,
song
and
original.
holes also, right? Did you
Holes.
just
Well, Holes came out already. The Mercury Rev cover Holes. I released that for a Planned Parenthood
yeah.
compilation. And yeah, so a lot of the songs are already out there and doing good work. I guess tell me what was your. I mean, you've been in the studio in a million different scenarios. I guess I wanted to hear more. Like I've said so much about my experience with you. I think hear as much as you want to talk about it, or you want to
Yeah.
remember moments and.
Well, the physical place was good. It's always important. The location, Earth Star, was basically an organic field. Just being there in West LA and Venice, contributed to the vibes. And the owner and the way he set it up, and
John X, yeah.
that's important. So you you're not uptight and you're loose, and so you're having a good time. So you basically, it's hard to lose in a situation like that if you've got the material already, the hard work's already done before you go in the studio, which you guys already had done. You guys had already established all the guidelines, the verse, course, the roadmaps were already put together. So
Yeah.
all we had to do was just, make it real, come to life.
Yeah. Do you remember the one that wasn't finished was the collar of my shirt? Do you remember that one? And it was a shorter song, and you were kind of like, I think it's not finished. And then we wrote the end of that day, and that
Yeah.
might be one of my favorite parts of the record is that real quick second half of that song that which you kind
Yeah,
of wrote.
well, that exposed to a little bit of a different part of your personality because I don't know if you've done that type of thing before, but you kind of let go and
Mhm.
and exposed yourself there, which I thought was great, and the song was then long enough, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I've been saying that was you were like you did. I mean, part of the intention of me doing covers and also to work with you was to sort of learn other song forms and other ways of recording and you brought all that but then on that you were pushed. Yeah, most of the songs were written, arrangements were more or less done except for all the the organ and all the stuff that Andrew Bird and all the backing vocalists and everything, but the
yeah,
the
yeah.
basic roadmaps of the song. But that one was like no, you pushed me out on some branches, and that was just so. And I didn't even really, I wasn't really thinking when I wrote that part or the melodies. I was just in that sort of really comfortable zone. Because the music was so good and like you said, the studio was so environment. It was so comfortable. I was able to like quickly just continue and I didn't have to like plug into anything. I was already plugged in, and you just kept it going for a while.
I have to say, I think you hired a cadre of great arrangers for that album. All the people that you hired to do the arrangements were really good and really spontaneous and creative in the moment, and open for criticism.
Well, I mean, you talk about the arrangers. Like I said, the basic roadmaps of the songs were worked out with myself and whoever I wrote it with, and this is
Yeah,
like 10 different people, but then Andrew Bird and Mickey Raphael, and then Kyle Resnick and Ben Lands came in with regard to sort of strings and horns and harmonica, and they kind of did their own thing. And then
yeah,
Gail Ann Dorsey even kind of did her own thing melodically, and especially on some of the covers. So it wasn't like any of that stuff was arranged in a laboratory. It was sort of arranged. Those arrangements were done spontaneously, kind of without being written.
really.
Does that make sense to you? Like I
Well,
didn't.
it's news to me. I mean, it's fine. I thought everything had been kind of put together.
No, like Mickey Raphael, all his parts, and he just was he
Oh
was
yeah,
doing,
yeah.
and same with the horns and
That was a great suggestion, and the vibe that Mickey gave the album is his low harps, his high harps, his
yeah.
he plays different keys. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Do you remember? Here's a moment I remember. Do you remember when I can't remember which song it was, but Mickey laid down this incredible, all from the soul, uh, solo, harmonical solo, and he did it once, and he came in. And he just stopped and he sat down and he's like that's the one, and you were nodding, you knew too, he didn't have to do it twice, and then he kind of took a beat and he's like that was personal. For me, what was so important about you is that all these different writers bringing in all these different types of, because anytime I write with anybody, it's just naturally, it's like having a child with a different partner. That the song just has its own. So, for example, like the songs I write with Brent, who wrote All for Nothing on this, and that song Witches, which isn't on there. He and I write very differently than I do with Mike Brewer or Hayden or Walter. And so all of these songs that I brought into you were orphans from different sort of families, but I wanted this record to feel like they were all part of the same family. And so I feel like that's kind of what you did with Stardust, meaning all these different kind of songs from different writers, but that album sounds like Willie Nelson. It doesn't, even though he didn't write a word of that. You know what I'm saying? You made
Yeah,
everything feel like it was part of the same DNA.
they joined the same family in a way. we're speaking. That's great to hear. I'm glad you thought I did that with it. Brought them into the same genre.
What? Let me ask you this. What? I was going to ask you about genre because, like, what genre do you consider yourself, and maybe what genre do you think this record, Serpentine Prison, we made is? You know.
That's interesting. I'm thinking um, rock, of course, but I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, because I'm come from a world known as indie rock, right? And sort of that's the label that always goes on me. And I guess the label, what's the label that's on you most? Memphis Soul Legend, right? You've done disco, country. You know, you talked about Egyptian music. You know, and you're very classically trained, and at Indiana University. And so, have you thought of your like when do you think of yourself as a soul musician or or what like or just how do you define? You know.
I don't think of myself as a soul musician um, or a classical musician, which is sort of where I first started, or a country or jazz or rock.
Mm-hmm.
Although you can probably see my Baxendale guitar over there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So just having that Baxendale, the fact that he made that for me
Mm-hmm.
makes me a rock musician.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
uh, so, but I like to think that rock kind of encompasses some of the genres that I think I grew into maybe a rock musician.
Well, yeah, because rock is a child of all the some of these other things, right? Yeah.
Started with ukulele. Ukulele was my first instrument and a drum. So
And then trombone. And
yeah,
wasn't trombone how you first got into the studio at Stax?
I played baritone sax in the
Oh,
studio.
sorry, baritone sax.
Played trombone with Joe Tex. Joe Tex had a big horn section on. Do you ever hear a song called Skinny Legs and All? Joe,
Uh, I don't know, but it sounds like
that's
they
me
wrote it
and
for me.
that's me playing trombone on that
Oh, really?
yeah uh, with Bo Legs Miller.
Oh,
So
like, no.
yeah, but that trombone is the one I did my senior recital on. That's
Mhm.
a C instrument, and that was my anchor for 4 years going through college.
Yeah,
The trombone, and I played that in the orchestra, and
right.
that's how I learned basically how to write different horn parts and because trombone is written in C, and some people write it in F clef. Some of the European writers wrote, so it could play real high. That's my anchor. That was my anchor. For 4 years, I played it in college.
Yeah. And speaking of college, you went to college at Indiana University. I grew up in Ohio and spent a lot of time in Indiana. But you were, correct me if I'm wrong, you were going to classes for 4 years, and then on the weekends you drive back to Memphis to for sessions with the MGs and Stacks, and right?
I lost a lot of jobs because I couldn't drive fast enough. I lost some jobs to Isaac Hayes. Yeah, theory class
How long did that drive?
30. It was 400 and a little over 400 miles of Highway 37 from there to Memphis. Yeah, I left on Friday afternoon and I was there for Saturday and Sunday sessions and left, drove all night Sunday night to get back to class. But yeah, I did that for 4 years.
When you were at college at any university, did people know you'd already written Green Onions? Because isn't that right? You'd already written Green Onions.
They did because I had a white Galaxy Ford convertible and everybody else was walking.
I bet I made that 400-mile drive better in that Galaxy. My favorite Booker T and the MG's record is Melting Pot, and what do they? Where do you find that record when you go into record shops? Which bin is it under R&B or is it under?
Melting Pot was an attempt to escape the genre. Uh, I was ready to leave the band. We were at odds with each other. I was telling them everything sounds the same. We go in the studio and then play, and it would sound like hip hop, or we play something that would sound like Green Onions. Everything we played sounded the same. So I was like ready to quit. And so Steve and Al said, "Well, let's go to a different place." We were in LA, so they went to New York. I walked into the studio and Al and Steve were playing this melting pot rhythm, which was
Oh, that they were already had that rhythm. Hmm.
and that was their
Al
answer
Jackson and Steve
to
Cropper.
the problem. That was their answer, and wow, I mean, I was just trying to keep up. I mean, it was just,
So they were like they brought some new blood, and you walked in the room and you said, "Okay, there's something new happening." When did Donald Duck Dunn come in on bass?
he came in about 4 or 5 bars later.
Okay. So how long did that record take to make, and like how much was it? How much did you like write that in writing, or how much was it just written in a room with those guys? And yeah, and then I want to ask you more about that your relationship with that band.
It was a jam. It was a jam basically. It was like, yeah, it was like we can't be the same band anymore. We have to do something.
Mhm. Yeah, it's like you got bitten by something. My favorite, I mean, Melting Pot is probably my favorite song on it, but my second favorite song is LA Jazz Song. And there's all these amazing vocalists that come in, and the song like goes from like a spy novel to, The Wizard of Oz on a tip of a, your music always, I feel like you're all these hairpin turns into new realms, and kind of like the Beatles would always do that, and like it starts out this thing, and then all of a sudden it blooms into a kaleidoscopic thing, and then back to a little groove. And Melting Pot feels like it does that 500 times, in it, and it just like I just wonder how fast that all came out.
Yeah, I think all the only thing I wrote on it was the bridge, the C part. That
Hmm.
I did a big sweep and we've kind of worked that out because that has chord changes. But yeah,
Yeah. Um, in the MGs, did you write many songs? Did you write it like lyrics and are there many Booker T and the MG songs that have lyrics
no,
and words?
no, it was the band was restricted then in the '60s as an instrumental group purposely.
Why?
hmm Oh, dictation from Stax, from
Hmm.
the powers that be there. It started with Green Onions, which was a instrumental, and
Hmm.
basically was just kind of me trying to make the talking melody on the organ.
That's what I wanted to talk to you, because it sounds like the organ is always the vocalist in your music to me. Does that make sense?
It
Um,
is, yeah, yeah, sweet.
um,
Mhm.
I'm gonna take you with me really quickly because my computer's. I'm gonna steal Jamie's power source. But yeah, go ahead. I just talk about the Hammond, because when I was singing, I always felt often you were. I had melodies worked out, but you were often leading me, or at least supporting me, or just kind of helping me through. To find the right emotional tone, and you were also looking at lyrics. Jamie, may I borrow your power source, or anyone's power source? So I got Booker on that. Do you have that power source?
I don't have one.
All right.
You happen to have a laptop?
I do not. Okay, Booker, I'm taking
we
you
all,
upstairs.
we
Uh,
all do the same shit. I just found a part of my computer here. It was all the same
okay,
story.
you know what? I've got some red left. Let's just run it out. We'll be fine. Sorry about that. Um, okay, I'm sorry. Where were we? Anyway, can I ask you about the MGs, and if you're comfortable talking about being in a band with and you guys were very much held up as this sort of you wrote a record called Melting Pot, and people looked at the Booker T and the MGs as this harmonious interracial thing, but it wasn't always that way. Um, and if you want to talk about your band at all.
Yeah, yeah. We're This is 2020, and it doesn't differ so much from 1820 in political terms, unfortunately. Uh, and so yeah, we but yeah, we existed. We subsisted together. We fed off and from each other musically uh, in a hostile racial environment. Uh, Other people have done that. And so we had our injuries and wounds as a result of that. That's such a toxic environment, and we're doing such a beautiful thing, making music, you know, and people loved it. We loved it. It sustained us. Um, but ultimately, you know, your outside environment is going to affect you. It's just like the smoke here that comes from the fires in California. Eventually, it's going to get you. And so that's what happened in a nutshell. Um, you know, there was a lot of love, and but eventually, all of the societies are built like you know they have building blocks, and those blocks are much stronger than the pieces. The society is going to be what it is, and if it's got a structure, it's gonna prevail.
Are you optimistic about America and its direction? You know, maybe not today, but maybe like in a longer term.
There have been so many encouraging awakenings that I have been encouraged. The price has been catastrophic for
Mm-hmm.
those awakenings,
Mm-hmm.
but they have occurred. So you got to cut your losses, and you got to be positive
Mm-hmm.
in order for the positive to prevail.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, you know, the just the word America means something good.
Let me ask you this. I get asked this question a lot. Do you think music makes any difference?
Yeah, music is psychological blood for life.
Mm,
It is. What
mm,
can we do? What can we do without music? We can't get married. You know, we can't relax.
mm,
So uh, it's you know, some people probably can't live without it.
mm,
So that gives us a responsibility. You
mm,
know, maybe we don't want it, but you know, music picks us up. I mean, you know, and it carries us.
mm,
So, you know, I mean, look at the life of Marvin Gaye. You
mm,
know, I mean, look at the weight he carried, and look
mm,
at what he did. Look at all the joy he brought with the music.
mm.
So,
Like music, yeah, all that kind of stuff. How music is sort of something a communicative device beyond language, which makes us feel empathy for other people.
well, it's extremely important. That's your area. That's one of the reasons why we connected. Your area is words. Words are the most powerful thing we have, and the
Maybe
music,
harmful. Yeah.
yeah, but and the music carries the words. The music complements the words. Uh, all of our thoughts, all of our ideas have to be communicated with words. So those are the powerful things. And you mentioned a good example there. Chuck D. You know, he would take 3 or 4 words and a little bit of music, and there you got a powerful force.
Well, I think it's for me. It's like the reason I'm not I don't think of myself as a poet. I think of myself as a songwriter, and I wouldn't be able to write if I didn't have the music. Right? It's like I think songwriting. Think of songwriting as swimming, and if there's no water, you know, I can't. And it could be a creek, it could be an ocean, it could be a warm bath, it could be a cold pond, you know, or it could be, you know, a slushy puddle. But music is water, and I can't do anything. I'm a fish out of water without music as a writer.
Yeah, Sibelius comes to mind. Jean Sibelius was one of the reasons why I became a musician. You know, his country was under siege, and he didn't need any words. He just wrote that melody, uh, the symphony, and you know what the words are there. You know the feeling. You know you get the emotion. And he didn't need one single word. He used the violins, and so yeah, it communicates. But there was also a political situation that he was the timing. That's what we have right now. No one needs to wonder what a piece of music can mean now because the situation is so dire.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I want to ask you one last question, and it's because I've been asked this about this record, Serpentine Prison, and I think I talked to you a little bit about it. But the record Stardust by Willie Nelson was what my dad's favorite record,
Yeah.
and making this record, excuse me, was not I wasn't writing songs about my dad, but I wanted to do the covers sort of to make a record for my dad, because a record that felt that that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked a lot about my parents, and my parents have always been so encouraging. Like when I wanted to, quit piano, they're like, fine, and they didn't make it hard on me to quit piano. And
Mm-hmm.
when I wanted to quit, go to art school or quit this thing to switch to art or quit this.
Yeah.
And I know that you had parents that were similar, and I just want to talk about like your parents and how you think your parents, because I see you with your kids, and I see you, all your kids are so kind to you, and you and Nan are so kind. Tell me about that, or whatever.
I owe both of them. My dad was the one who sat out in the car and waited when I was a kid and I was in the club to take me home. He's the one that paid for the clarinet. He's the one that said, okay, I'll take you guys. He picked up Maurice White's drums and brought drums home from the store so we could have a drummer. But when you hear me play or when you hear me sing, you're hearing the essence, the musical essence of my mother, who played piano when I was a kid. She first played Debussy. And she played Chopin, she played Liszt, she played gospel music at church. I inherited, and she gave me the musical feeling. So those are my parents, and she was music.
Thank you. That's great. All right, thank you, Booker. I can't wait to see you, and I can't wait to play these songs with you as much as possible in the future, and many more. I would not have been able to do even begin to do this project without you, and I never would have finished it without. So it was. I learned so much from you, and I appreciate it so much.
I'm glad you feel that way. We had a good time.
We did.
We have something to show for it. We're fortunate.
Yeah. Thanks, pal.
I enjoyed talking to you. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Booker. Thank you, guys. Booker, I will talk to you soon.
Baby, don't lie to me. You know that I believe